Hello. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to use AI to generate marketing briefs because I know a lot of platforms, especially content management platforms and CRMs, customer relationship management platforms, are building in AI. This application is just a straightforward way to run a report that I've defined in the background quickly and easily as part of my intake work for a consultant. So, what you're seeing here are some companies that I've run through this analysis. I'm going to show you the form. I'm going to show you how it's set up in the background in order to facilitate the AI features, and then I'll show you the output and what we can do with it. And the hope would be that you understand chained AI, which is the biggest value proposition of AI in general and agentic AI. We need to be able to take one output, use it in another input. Take one output, use it in another input. Perhaps we've got two or three data sets that we want to combine. Use that as an input so that we can combine it with another output. It's this logic that's going to lead to the solution for a business problem. Not just using ChatGPT or using Microsoft Copilot. There is a language to AI that everyone is going to have to start to understand. It's evolving so quickly, no one can really keep up. So the best way to get behind is just not to start. But if you're going to start, this video is going to try to explain how it works at that high level. So let's look first at the intake form and the name, Kermit the Frog, Leapfrog in Marketing Intelligence. Probably copyright violation, but I have no money, so don't sue me. Okay, so if we can define the attributes of what we're trying to find out about, like a company, then we can input those variables into a prompt, put that into a model, and then elicit an output. And so today, I've got some test use cases. I have my friend's permission to use her Airbnb short-term rental property, so I'm going to use that today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to define in my prompt a prompt that says I'm looking for information about this company in this industry. The location is in Stillwater, Oklahoma, United States. Now, I am doing a lot with AI here that is going to be extraction of data. So if I have a research URL, such as the Airbnb we're talking about, go back to my app. Where is it? There. Okay, now I can lay it in. I'm going to go ahead and lay in my URL so I can extract things out for SEO performance and readiness. And if I click analyze, it'll do the flow, but I'm not going to do that yet. So I've inputted as part of my test data a description of my focus, the business challenges I have, mainly seasonality tied to game days only, competition from other rental places in the space, different rules and regulations changing on short-term rental owners so that they need to keep aware. And then I have the ability, if I wanted to upload stakeholder insights, meaning maybe I have a survey, maybe I have shareholder information, as long as I understand the data is coming from the executive team versus the operations team versus sales versus marketing. We can load these insights, and then all of this data is pulled together into a prompt, and I say, go. Now, while this is going, I have already run this report, so I'm going to go over to the admin panel after it goes ahead and completes, because that way I can make sure I show you the most recently run report as well as a couple of others. This is going to take about 30 to 45 seconds to complete, because what it's doing is it's running through a sequence of events. First, it's generating one output, then it's generating another, then it's seeking an API pulled in from a third-party service like the Census Bureau, and it's filling in that. Then it's extracting the information from the company URL based on the URL I input into that box for the SEO information. So once it's done, the entire report is done, but it has to sequence this through. It has to go output, input, output, input, output, input in order for this report to run in its entirety. Okay. This is where I'm going to go to the prompt, because before going through the report, I want to show you how it's managed. So this is where I am managing the prompts. And I can set a system prompt that says the conditions that I'm looking for. I'm a McKinsey caliber strategist. I deliver strategic analysis, blah, 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 blah. And then I can set the conditions and those variables within my prompt: company, industry, raw insights, which are the aggregated insights, and I can say what this report is going to return using natural language, meaning things I've written. This is not code. That's the beauty of all of this. So if I want to change what I see, I can go in here and change it. But let's first look at the magic that is AI, because if I go into the report we just ran, it is here. Now, I can go through and I have created a report for me, and it says, based on everything that AI sees, implementing dynamic pricing could increase revenue by 10 to 15%, potentially adding up to $40,000 of revenue for this property. It points out what it believes the risks and the first move should be, which is, unless you do it right, even the discussion about dynamic pricing could take so long that you'd end up losing money. So you need to start thinking about how to take this idea into action and what's required to do that. So the first move would be engaging in a pricing software vendor to talk about it. The impact could be this, the strategic confidence is this. But what I really want to point out is this small little window here gives you an idea of the length of this report. We can do an executive summary, which says this is what's going on. Here's the competitive landscape, including hotels and other rental or glamping locations that are nearby. And the simple fact is, a lot of people want to own short-term rentals, and there's VRBOs, and there's glamping sites and RV sites. So we need to be able to begin to paint that picture. Once we do, we can do a competitive mode analysis. We can paint the opportunity gaps that might exist for things that maybe this owner has not considered, such as dynamic pricing, local partnerships, marketing, enhanced guest experiences, which might be merchandise and swag. But this is where the real magic can happen. So if we think about everything from the customer journey, we need to pinpoint personas that we would end up marketing to and around. And that's where we can say, well, Our three primary customer segments are fans and their psychographic profile, meaning their key attributes we can define because there's only 11 key attributes that are part of the buying model according to psychographic profiling. So we can get in here and we can say, okay, here is how to talk to this person. So if you wanted to talk about things, they know they value tradition, community, and loyalty, and they go to things regularly. They're active on social media. You can reach them there. They're emotional buyers, meaning if you get them at the right time, they may want to buy, and they're loyal to Oklahoma State, which is why I love OSU. Okay, so we can also key in maybe there's adventure seekers who come to Stillwater for a certain reason. Biking, marathons, outdoor living, concerts. We can see who these people are. And then family travelers would be that last group. Maybe people who need to visit OSU for a reason. They're a family member of an athlete or a student. They need a place to stay. Hotels are not ideal. They want an Airbnb. They have a pet, blah, blah, blah. So we can dive into that. And once we define that, we can talk about all the ways these people should be reached. And because OSU alumni and fans have a certain profile, we can dig into that. You best reach them through social media, through email marketing, through content marketing, meaning a blog on a website, paid advertising. What messaging framework would be suitable for which persona? We can define that. What tactics we should consider. What their journey is. How do they start social media? And where do they end with going to a game and feeling nostalgic about the school? So we can really think about that in terms of connecting with them. Some people might want to sell with them, but from a content perspective, we're just looking at creating content that resonates with the audiences we want to reach. So if we can define that, and this is the information for three of the personas, we can start to glean what we think the financial impacts may be based on those actions. And a lot of what consultants do is speculative. It's predictive. Based on past actions, we can predict what happens in the future. But if we can start to pinpoint those KPIs, and then we can use the location field to do point of interest extraction, then we can integrate with other services to bring in, well, here's what's near that location. Here's the restaurants. Here's the demand drivers for this property. Here's where we can integrate with the Census Bureau to say, okay, well, based on this property being in this location, we can now define all these things. And this is the census information for Payne County, the population, median income. This line of thinking goes on and on based on the intent of the content or the report that you want to produce. So I'm interested in three areas in my consulting business. I'm interested in manufacturing, in construction, media, and marketing. And this report lands in the middle because I can run Airbnb reports with it, but I can also define out what I want in an output. And what I really wanted to do was get everything. So as you scroll down, we're now getting into the competitor analysis based on the URL extraction. And we're running an analysis based on best practices for how a website should be constructed and structured in a new AI world. And this is the bottom line I want everyone to understand. Digital transformation can be pushed out. It's like technical debt or any other debt you accrue. It sits there until you revisit it. And until you revisit it, it's a ticking time bomb that slowly accrues cost. because all of these things that are the old way of thinking need to be revisited for the AI age. And they need to be discussed, they need to be absorbed, and finally, they need to be understood. Because unless we understand these things that are taking place, we will never be able to pull the levers to make this website or any website we're dealing with competitive to be found in a query-filled world where people are asking questions and not seeking a business through a URL. So that new reality is what a report like this can help paint, because we can extract out all the information. We can say, here's what is a positive, here's what's a negative. And then we can say, here's what needs to happen in order for you to compete in tomorrow's web, not today's, what's happening tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. And we can just fill this with all the information that is needed. Now, at the end, this is so much, we want a strategic synthesis, the so what statement. Like, all right, JJ, shut up. You've gone on and on with this report. What does it mean? So at the beginning, we can say, this is what we think the bottom line is. One, use your unique offerings to create a competitive advantage. This place rents a Jeep with that. Do it. They allow pets. Market to that. So we can define those things. Dynamic pricing, we talked about. Identify a vendor. Get going. There is no money to be made sitting, waiting to be made money. And then guest experiences, reach partnerships with local businesses so one referral becomes all, and then marketing to OSU alumni and fans specifically based on interest. Tennis fans will be interested in something different than basketball fans. Cater to that. If you're coming from a location from a World Cup country into the United States for the Dallas World Cup, market to that location. What's nearby that might be of interest to an Indian community? Or if you are from London, where might you go to get a good biscuit? I don't know, whatever you want to think about. But this bottom line can be summarized, and in the end, we can really provide business intelligence to the owners of the companies that we are partnering with. Now, because I use this as an intake exercise, this is read-in for me. This is interesting. This is how it's put together. But I can also then use all of this data to generate out questions as a starter for me when I'm starting with an engagement, so that I sound like I know what I'm talking about, just like hopefully I did on this video. So thanks for listening. This is the report. If I wanted to export it, I can do it via CSV PDF, and I can create that report and send it off or use it with my team. And we've integrated it with a chat bot, so if I have questions about this or what certain terminologies mean, we can do that straight from the intake form without hopping around. Thanks for listening. I hope this has been helpful.